Hello, everyone. This is D. Knight, author of A Realistic Path to Peace: How to End the New Cold War and Prevent Nuclear Disaster. I want to tell you about this important book and read parts of the preface. My core message is the world is in a crisis now. The danger of both nuclear disaster and global war is greater than ever. The main reason is not China or Russia. It's the determination of neocons in Washington, D.C. to maintain U.S. global domination. The stakes are high for them. They seem to believe that if they allow any other country to challenge their global leadership, their whole system could fall apart. So they're prepared to do whatever it takes. Blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline was a sign, a desperate last-ditch measure after efforts to persuade their strongest European ally to cut off Russian energy supplies didn't work. Europeans now pay much higher prices for natural gas than before. Ordinary people in Europe are much worse off, and we're seeing major economic problems across the entire world. Western European leaders have been rounded up into a unified NATO alliance against Russia. This alliance, originally composed of North Atlantic countries under U.S. leadership, is now also being extended to East Asia. Why? It's because China's economic success is threatening Western domination of global trade. Now most countries around the world have stronger trade with China than with the U.S. or its allies. The BRICS coalition, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, recently surpassed the group of 7 rich countries in economic output. Many more countries want to join BRICS. It's an alternative to Western domination. The leaders of the G7 countries, the U.S. and its allies, met recently in Hiroshima, Japan, to forge a stronger alliance and to denounce Russian threats of nuclear aggression. President Biden did not use the occasion to apologize to Japan for the first and only nuclear attacks the world has ever experienced by the U.S. on Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II. These attacks killed hundreds of thousands of people and permanently injured many more for generations. Many historians argue that the true purpose of these nuclear attacks was to warn the Soviet Union, Russia back then, that it could be next, but the Soviet Union developed its own nuclear arsenal. Ever since then, the people of the world have lived in a balance of terror, never knowing when or if the world might blow up. It's at least ironic, if not obscene, for the U.S. and its allies to use Hiroshima as the place to denounce Russian nuclear threats. But projection and big lies have been a key part of U.S. war justifications for many, many times. Remember weapons of mass destruction? That was the rallying cry to invade Iraq back in 2002. Control of Iraq's oil resources was another major motivator. In 1964, there was the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A North Vietnamese patrol boat was accused of attacking a U.S. Navy ship. It led to U.S. war in Vietnam. The U.S. Navy ships that now surround China and patrol the Taiwan Strait are part of a pattern. The U.S. fosters and fortifies elements inside a country it wants to dominate, then positions its military dangerously close to its chosen enemy. Then it accuses the chosen enemy of aggression. That was the pattern in the build-up to the current conflict with Russia, starting long before February 2022. In 2004, a color revolution in Ukraine toppled a government friendly to Russia. The Guardian, a British newspaper, said it was an American creation, a sophisticated and brilliantly conceived exercise. This color revolution was reversed in 2010, which set the stage for the Maidan events of 2013 and 14. After Ukraine's elected leaders decided not to redirect the country's economy away from Russia and toward Western Europe, the U.S. helped foment a coup. It encouraged far-right forces to take over the government and launch an anti-Russian crusade. The Russian language was outlawed, hitting the people of the Donbass and Crimea very hard since Russian speakers are the majority there. A civil war ensued, with fascist-led Ukrainian forces terrorizing the Donbass regions, causing an estimated 14,000 deaths. Meanwhile, the US and NATO launched war games and simulated bombing attacks along the Russian border. NATO trainers helped reshape the Ukrainian military. In December 2021, Russia proposed a peace plan based on the Minsk II Accords: autonomy for the Donbass regions, separation of Crimea, and strict neutrality for the Ukraine. U.S. leaders called the proposal a non-starter. A month after the Russian special military operation began, Ukraine and Russia agreed in principle to a peace deal. That deal was nixed by the US and UK. You could say the US managed to snatch war from the jaws of peace. The evidence to prove all this can be found in my book. It shows the conflict in Ukraine didn't have to happen, that China does not want war. A new peace movement is emerging. It faces enormous obstacles, including a gigantic wave of war hysteria engineered in Washington, magnified by a captive mainstream media. But as facts emerge and truth surfaces, the movement for peace will intensify. Combined with the horrific results of sanctions and war, these facts and truths will bring ever greater waves of opposition and resistance into the fray. Will it be enough to stop the war machine? We don't know. But the alternative is too horrific to imagine. That can be a driving force to build the peace movement we need. We can be confident the neocons have made a bad gamble. They are unlikely to win. Their loss could bring about a world free of imperialist war. That's a possibility worth striving for. That's part of my book's preface. Find out more on my website, realpathtopeace.com. And you can send me questions or comments at info@realpathtopeace.com. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now, and thanks very much.